Hey guys, and happy Tuesday. Today is May 12th, and this is for Math 2. This is volume of prisms and pyramids. So today we're starting to talk about volume like we kind of touched a little bit on yesterday. We're going to use the shapes to kind of help us, okay? So the first thing you need to know is to find the volume of a prism. We're going to do the area of the base times the thickness. What do I mean by that? I mean, if you take, here's a prism. Remember, there are lots of different kinds of prisms. A prism is something that has one shape on one side, same shape on the other side, and it's kind of separated. So the base would be this shape. That's the base. And on a rectangular prism, it doesn't really matter what side you call the base. Let's just say I call this my base. On a rectangular prism, it doesn't matter. So this is my base, and this is how far it's going back. I call this my thickness. Most people call it the height. The only reason why I don't like to call it the height, and I put that on here just so you can see it. The only reason why I don't like to call it the height is because when you do triangles, you have base times height divided by 2. So there's a height inside of this shape, this here, inside of this shape, and then there's also this quote unquote height. It's kind of complicated to have two different heights. So I just call this the thickness, but you'll hear height from other people. Same thing, okay? All right, so we're gonna start by looking at a cube first. Although for prisms, it's all the same. So it's not necessarily that this is only for a cube, okay? But we're gonna look at a cube. So cubes like this, where all the sides are the same. Since all the sides are the same, it doesn't matter what shape I pick as my base. Just pick one, doesn't matter, okay? So I'll call this one down here my base. Again, since all the sides are the same, it doesn't matter which one you pick, okay? So that's my base, I'm gonna call that. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find the area of that base. So it's a square, so to find the area of that base, I just multiply length times width, base times height, or side squared, whatever you wanna call it. 5 times 5, which is 25. So that's the area of the base, okay? So I'm gonna put that in here, volume equals area of the base, which is 25, times, and then the thickness or the height. So how far is it going up? Here's the exact same shape on the top. How far is it between the two same shapes? Oh, it's 5 between, so then this is my thickness. If I called this my base. And again, I could have picked any side as my base because they're all the same. So then I do volume is 25 times 5, which is 125. And then volume for the units, we still have centimeters because you'll see it's centimeters here, but it's centimeters times centimeters times centimeters. So if it's x times x times x, that's x cubed, so centimeters cubed. And there's my volume. And that's the same no matter what kind of base it is, but we're gonna look at different bases just in case. So let's look at another kind of base. We'll look at a rectangular prism. Again, it's the same process, it just has a rectangular as the base instead of a square, same thing. Area of the base times the thickness. Again, for a rectangular prism, it still doesn't matter what you call the base. It doesn't really matter, okay? So let's just say I call the base the bottom again, just because people normally think bottom when you say base, but again, it doesn't matter for a rectangular prism or a cube. Okay, so if I call that the base, I'm gonna find the area. So A equals base times height or length times width, 9 times 5. So my area of my base would be 45. So then the volume would be area of the base, 45, times the thickness, which is how far away, here's the same shape on top that there is on bottom, how far away the top and bottom from each other, they're 4 inches from each other. So my thickness would be 4. Again, I could have used a different base and that would change my thickness. It just depends on what base you pick. But you get the same answer. So then 45 times 4 is 180. It's inches. And then since it's volume, inches times inches times inches gives me inches cubed. There's my volume. Let's look at one more prism just to make sure we understand, okay? So we'll look at a triangular prism. Again, it's exactly the same. So this is a triangular prism like this. Now, if you can't tell with my shape, this is just equilateral and this is a right triangle, okay? Now, for a triangular prism, you do have to use the triangle as the base. Okay, so this is my base. So wherever the triangle is, that has to be your base. Okay, on a rectangular prism, I have so many rectangles that I can pick any rectangle I want. Triangular prism, it has to be the triangle. There's only the front and the back that are triangles here. Okay, so I'm going to find my area of my base. Remember, the area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. Okay, so base would be 10 times height would be 6 divided by 2. So 10 times 6 is 60 divided by 2. And 60 divided by 2 is 30. So the area of this base right here is 30. So I put it back in the same thing. Volume equals area of the base, 30, times the thickness. And again, the thickness is the distance between the two shapes that are the same. So triangle here, triangle back here. 17 is how far apart the two triangles are from each other. So that's my thickness. Okay, so 30 times 17 gives me 510 as my volume. Again, feet times feet is feet cubed. There you go. Okay. We're going to look at now pyramids, which are based on prisms. So it's not very different at all, okay? So the first thing you need to know about a pyramid is that a pyramid is actually 1/3 the volume of a prism. So there are 3 pyramids that fit into one prism. So it's exactly like the volume of a prism. You just have to divide by 3 because it's only 1/3 of the volume. It's exactly the same as we just did, okay? So pyramids are things like this. Remember, a pyramid is something that has a shape on the bottom, but it's not the same shape on the top. It goes to a point, which we call the apex. This is a pyramid. It has triangles on the side and a certain shape on the bottom. So this is called a square pyramid because the bottom is a square. This is exactly the same as this, okay? All right, so area of the base has to be the square because that's across from the apex or the point at the top. So that is the base. Okay, so I find the area of the base. It's a square, so that's just 5.5 times 5.5. So 5.5 times 5.5 gives me an area of 30.25. That's my area of my base, so volume equals 30.25, that's the area of the base, times the thickness. Thickness is still that same height up here, okay? So this is still my thickness, just like on the other ones, just that it goes up to the apex. So it's the distance between the apex and the bottom shape. So that's 7.5 divided by 3 is the only extra part. So 30.25 times 7.5 gives me 226.875. And that would be if it was a prism. So if this square was on the top and the bottom, that would be the volume. But I have to divide by 3 to find the pyramid. So my volume is 75.625 feet cubed. Let's look at one more just to make sure you know. So rectangular pyramids, same thing, okay? Area of the base has to be the one that's across from the apex. So this is my base right here, just a rectangle this time. Same thing, area is still base times height, or length times width. So 6.7 times 8.2 is 54.94. And so then the volume is the area of the base times the thickness. And again, the thickness is the distance between the base and the apex up here. So that's the 11. This is the thickness, again, same as height, divided by 3. So 54.94 times 11 gives me 604.34. This is the volume of if it was a rectangular prism. There was a rectangle on top and bottom instead of going to a point. So I divide by 3 to find the pyramid version. So I get 201.4, and I'm going to go ahead and round here because as you can see there's a lot of decimals. So that's going to make the 4 round up to a 5 because of the 6 there. And that's centimeters cubed because it's volume. Okay, so there's your volume. Again, just look for the area of the base. It's all based on that. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know through Google Classroom, email, remind, whatever you need. Have a great day, guys.